Hello everyone, bringing you another video today from the National Army Museum's Reserve Collection at Stevenage. And we're having a look at some holsters today. What we have here is a collection of holsters designed for the Browning High Power. We have a sort of a timeline here, I guess you could say. Obviously this design would go on to influence the holster introduced for the use with the 1958 pattern equipment. That's sort of off the end of the timeline over here, if you will. The holster we have here is of World War II era manufacture. It's actually Canadian, and many people may recognise this as the sort of odd Canadian design of holster which was introduced during the war. This is indeed Canadian marked. If we open this up here, you can see underneath the flap there we have the date of 1944. I believe the manufacturer of this is ZL&T, which is a prolific manufacturer of Canadian web equipment. And then we of course have the Canadian inspection stamp there, the C with the broad arrow inside. A close-up shot of that now as well, just to show you that detail here. Internal detail there, of course, you have a leather holder here for a cleaning rod on that side there. Hopefully you can see that. I'll hold it up to the camera here. And then you have a magazine compartment here, actually a hard metal insert there to hold a magazine. These are a rather tight fit for the pistol. They don't actually fit very well. The quick release tab is very simple. It's just a strip of webbing stitched on, which then fits through the sort of standard 1937 pattern quick release fitting there as used on the later Mark III pouches. It's bound all around the edge, as you can see, and then you have a simple belt loop on the back there. What's interesting about this is that it's actually a British sealed pattern. So you have the seal there, and you have the seal, well, the standard pattern label here, and this designates the holster as holster webbing number 2 Mark I, and you can see the date at the bottom there of the 23rd of the 5th, 1955, the signature against that, and then on the back we have quite a few stamps. We've got dates through until 1965 on the back there, as you can see. So interesting to see a Canadian design of holster, but with British seal to show, you know, that this was accepted or British issue, and was obviously the intention was that this would be further examples would be manufactured to this standard pattern. So there we are, sealed pattern Canadian holster, but sealed with a British sealed pattern label on it there. Moving on, we have two further examples of holsters really designed for the Browning High Power here. This one is not a sealed pattern, but has a standard pattern label attached, as you can see here. The holster itself, the overall design, is somewhat more advanced than the Canadian example we looked at there. If we open this up here, you can see that this is dated 1957 under the flap, and we can look at the details of the design here. If we open up the other flap to the side here, you have a webbing channel here to fit a cleaning rod into, and then if we turn this round, I'll try and open this up as best I can, you can see again we have the metal compartment in there to take a magazine for the high power, and that can be covered with this webbing tab just over the top there to make a little lid for it. So that's the design of the holster. It opens up like that, obviously allows you to withdraw the pistol very easily. So this example is dated 1957. The label actually notes this as holster 1957 pattern canvas, which is interesting. It isn't canvas, of course, it's made of webbing. And as you can see on the back, there's no evidence that this was actually issued out. But nevertheless, interesting to see this actually referred to as 1957 pattern. As I say, that this isn't actually a sealed pattern, in that the label is not sealed onto it. It's simply a standard pattern label which has been attached with a piece of cord. And there's another example of the same holster here. If we open this up, you can see the markings underneath the flap there. This one's actually dated 1956, interestingly. Like the holster we were previously looking at, this is also of Canadian design, but you'll note here Meko, the manufacturer, so this is a British-made example of the holster. We opened it up, it's exactly the same design inside, as you can see there. You've got the little channel there for the cleaning rod, and then the little webbing cover over the metal fitting there to take a magazine, spare magazine, within the holster itself there, as you can see. This again has a label attached. We'll just close this up again. And this is attached with a little lead seal onto the holster here. And if we have a look at this in close-up, you can see that this now simply refers to this as holster pistol. There's an interesting note that this is not to be issued. You do have a catalogue number there. Interestingly, not a British NATO stock number. You'll notice the number 21 there in place of the 99, which would normally be expected for a British stock number.
The 21, of course, was assigned to Canadian items in the NATO stock code system, which makes sense given that this holster is originally of Canadian design.
You have the date of sealing of 1968, 25th of the 4th, 1968 there, and the back of the label again shows no details that this has actually been issued out, but interesting to see the different nomenclature. Looking at the back of the holster here, another detail I didn't mention, looking at the other one, you can see this has both a belt loop to attach to the belt and also the C hooks there, which you would expect from sort of standard British fitting to use these to fit things onto the belt. Obviously carried through 1937 pattern, 1944 pattern and 1958 pattern. So pretty standard in that regard, the fittings on the back there. Though interesting in having the separate belt loop as well. As I say, this design would lead on to the holster which was introduced for use with the 1958 pattern. I just thought it was interesting having a dig through a box here at the National Army Museum's reserve collection, dig these out and compare the three of them and just have a look at the labels as well, because it's always interesting to see these items which have been kept back in stores and labelled for various different purposes and given pattern labels and so forth. It's unusual to be able to have a look at these. You know, quite a few of these out in private collections as well, but it's nice to see these items which have been obviously stored away for many years in the National Army Museum's collection, just bringing them to public attention and making them available. Hopefully you've found it interesting looking at these. If you have and you'd like to see more from the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the little notification button down below, and that will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It's greatly appreciated, as I always say. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down below as well. That's everything for this video. So until next time, bye for now.